Hi, and welcome to another edition of Jules Voto's Photo Focus. In this video, I'm going to be giving you tips on how to take pictures in a snowstorm, how to protect your gear, and some tips on how to shoot. Now, for the first time in several years, we had some significant snowfall here in South Jersey. So I went out for a couple hours at the height of the storm to get some pictures. And I used two cameras, my Nikon Z8 with the 24-70 2.8 zoom and my Z6 with the 70-200 2.8 zoom. And both these cameras and these lenses are weather sealed. So I really didn't need any additional protection for my cameras. I had a filter on each lens and used the lens shade, of course, which I always do. I dressed warm, had a hat and gloves. And also on the hot shoe, I put the little plastic cover that comes with the camera. There is a little indentation there for the locking pin on the flash, so I didn't want any water accumulating in there, any snow accumulating in there. And I always make sure I have fully charged batteries in both cameras and of course take some spares. And those spares I usually carry in my pants pocket so they stay warm if I need to change. And if I do need to replace a battery, and I didn't in this 2-hour shoot that I did the other day, if I do need to replace a battery, I will find some cover somewhere. And I won't change lenses in the snowstorm. That's the reason for the two bodies. And it also makes it a lot easier if you're carrying two bodies, if you want to, have a nice range. And, with these two lenses, I go from 24 to 200. Now, I also carry a microfiber cloth to clean off the lens and the eyepiece if any snow falls on it. And with my gloves, I'm constantly dusting off the camera. Now, like I said, these are both weather-sealed lenses, weather-sealed bodies. But if you don't have a weather-sealed camera, or if you have one that's not as well weather-sealed as these cameras are, you could always use some type of plastic to protect your lens and camera. And this is a rain sleeve from Optech USA. They're very inexpensive. You basically put the camera in, and then there is a way to tighten the front here over your lens. And we're just going to pull this tight. Let me do it up here so you can see. Just press this button here and tighten the string around the lens. And that does offer some protection. You then just put your hands in through the back and pull the plastic back a little so you can get to the eyepiece. Not the best method to protect your camera, but it works. Now, there are more expensive things you could buy for protection. Just look at B&H or Adorama. Look on their website and you will be able to find them. Now, as far as exposure, when photographing in the snow, you're going to need to usually do some exposure compensation. Now, the matrix metering in the Nikon cameras is excellent, but it's not perfect. So shooting in the snow, if you just go by the matrix meter, your pictures are going to be underexposed and the snow is not going to look pure white. So what I did on both cameras is I set exposure compensation to plus 2/3, and that worked out great. And I didn't touch it on either camera the entire time I was out there. And when I brought the raw files into Lightroom, occasionally I had to do a little additional exposure comp in Lightroom, but not very much. So I highly suggest you take a few test shots, see how well your meter reacts to that situation with the snow, and you probably will need to add some exposure comp. Same holds true if you're using full area measurement reading or a center weighted reading, you're most likely going to have to add some exposure compensation, some plus exposure compensation. I shot in auto white balance, which worked out fine. Of course, autofocus, and the only issue I had was sometimes my glasses would fog up or the eyepiece would fog up a little bit, but it wasn't a major issue. Now, one really nice thing I like about the Z8, and I mentioned this when I first got the camera. Actually, when I first got the camera, I didn't like where the playback button was. It's on the lower right of the back of the camera. On all my other Nikon digital cameras that I've ever owned, the playback button is on the upper left of the back of the camera. And at first, I couldn't get used to it, but then after using the camera for a little bit, after using the Z8 for a little bit, I realized that it's much more convenient to get to that button on the right side, because I usually hold my camera, like most people do, in their left hand so I could zoom. My right forefinger is on the shutter release, and my thumb is back here moving the joystick to change the autofocus point or adjusting the shutter speed. But I could come down while still having my finger on the shutter release and press that playback button. So it's very convenient, it's very easy to get to. And I used shutter priority automatic, and again, that worked fine with that plus 2/3 exposure compensation. Keep an eye on your battery. It will run down quicker in the cold. For those 2 hours I was out there, when I got back, I still had about 2/3 of the battery power left in each camera. And I was reviewing the images along the way. Okay, now let me show you how I carry my cameras when I'm out taking pictures in a snowstorm. Now, of course, I'm going to have a heavy winter coat on, a wool cap, and on top of the wool cap, actually, I will wear a baseball cap because the brim will help to keep that snow out of my eyes and off a little bit off the top of the camera. So on my left side, I will have usually the Z6. Now, I'm not showing the Z6 right now because the Z6 I'm using to film this. So I have the Z8 with the 70-200, but normally it would be the Z6. And on the other side, I have the Z8 with the 24-72.8. Again, that's on my Z6 now filming this. So I will carry the cameras like this. These gloves, nothing special, Cobalt, they're called. I believe I got them at Lowe's or Home Depot. They enable me to operate the controls on the camera. They're not the warmest gloves in the world. Usually I carry a second pair in my jacket pocket in case they get too wet to use. And so I'll have the cameras with the lens pointed down, as you see, and then I put my arms to try to protect the eyepiece as much as possible, because snow will build up in the eyepiece, actually even around the shade, where the shade meets the camera, and I'll dust that off as I go. When it's time to use a camera, I just take it off and take my pictures, okay? I try not to point the camera up, all right? So I try not to shoot things above, because then snow is going to fall on the filter, and I always have a filter on my lens. Also, I carry a microfiber cloth in the upper pocket, which has a flap so no snow could get in. And from time to time, I will wipe off the eyepiece, and if some snow did get onto the front filter, I will clean that off as well. And it's good to have two of those in case one does get wet. So what do you shoot? Whatever you like. I like to shoot some wide shots. That's why I have the camera with the 24-70. I'd like to get some shots of people, if possibly, walking in the snow. I like wide shots showing the trees with all the snow. I like If I was in the city, city scenes would look great with the roads covered in snow and some traffic moving along. I bring the 70 to 200 to get detail shots. Close-ups of leaves with snow on them. It's a personal thing. Whatever appeals to you, take a bunch of pictures. And I vary my compositions. That's one of the great things with the digital camera. You could just shoot and shoot and shoot. Problem is, of course, once you get back to your computer, you got a lot of editing to do, a lot of pictures to discard. But shoot a variety. You're not going to get that opportunity, at least if you live in South Jersey like I do. You're not going to get that opportunity to shoot in the snow. So if you think it might be a good shot, take it. If you decide later you don't like it, you can delete it. But just be careful. You don't want to slip and fall carrying your expensive equipment. Make sure you have a good pair of boots on. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions, comments, please leave them in the comments below, or you could email me. My email address is in the description below. Now, I usually come out with a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So again, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.